Hello there. Thank you so much for joining us on Joy Asahel Live. It's yet another wonderful day right here to discuss something very important. Today we're looking at how African youths can contribute to the peace and prosperity of this beautiful continent. We have an event coming up soon, one where I would be participating really strongly. So I'm excited that we're having this conversation once and for all to see how we can come together and ensure peace. We have been recording very unfortunate instances of not just environmental disruptions to living. We also have man-made, which is security volatility, and today we'll be discussing all of that. In the studio is Ambassador Augustine Igweshi. He is the Executive Director of Center for Peace Advocacy and Sustainable Development. He is also very active when it comes to this event that I'm talking about. Thank you so much for being part of this.
Thank you, Joy, for having me.
Yes, it's exciting. I mean, we're talking about something as important as having young people come together, do a simulation of the AU Parliament to discuss issues that affect African countries. So the honor is mine.
Okay, thank you so much. I feel excited to be here, and I am very happy because the event you're talking about is just a week from today.
Oh yes, it is.
So by this time next week, many of us delegates would have arrived at Abuja, Nigeria, from across the country. Some arriving from Ethiopia, Sierra Leone, Gambia, different part of Africa. So they will be here in Abuja from 27th to 1st of December. So it's going to be a whole lot of engagement, a whole lot of learning, simulation, and all of that. But let me just go into deep what the summit is about.
No, not yet. It's not yet. You're excited about all of that. But we have so much to discuss before we get into that summit.
Okay.
Because we have peculiarities of what's going on across African countries. But we'll go for a short break. When we return, like I said, there's so much to discuss before getting to this extraordinary summit that's coming up shortly here in Abuja. We'll be back after that. Welcome back from that. Augustine Igweshi is right here in the studio and would be doing justice to talking about how African youths. Now, we have Africa, a beautiful continent that has peculiarities of challenges. We have from drought to man-made issues like leadership issues. We have security issues and a plethora of those issues. I mean, it's not issues that other countries around the world in European, Asian continents have not overcome, but how are we doing, in your words, as to KPIs as an intentionality of governments across Africa to ensure we move above these issues?
Okay, thank you so much, Joy. African Union has about 55 member states. And every year they gather at the African Union headquarters in Ethiopia to discuss pressing challenges facing Africa. So from my experience engaging with stakeholders and youth across Africa, I think African country has their own peculiarity. Countries have similar peculiarity. For example, I was in Embassy of Angola last week. I was discussing with them. They were also telling me their own challenges.
Is this Nigeria you're talking about?
We also have influential unemployment. It's about 30-something% and all of that. And we are also oil producing country and all of that. You can see that the challenges Nigeria is facing is almost it's almost the same with theirs and all of that, because I was trying to see how they can send delegates from their country to participate at the summit. So the problem has been issue of leadership as per se, the political way to do what is supposed to be done, an issue of corruption. And if you look at most African countries, the leaders they don't have that compassionate attitude to see that, okay, they don't have that empathy, I could say, or that patriotism of bringing themselves to save. Instead of that, they look at other things around them. But issue also of corruption is also what has been actually dealing decisively with African countries, because the leaders, what are supposed to come to the citizens are, sometimes pocketed or sometimes used for other individual needs. So Africa as a country needs leaders that are very, very empathic, that are very, very passionate about patriotic leadership, or servant leadership. People who are willing to serve above themselves, but give themselves to serve the country. So if you look at Europe and other part of the world, you see that those guys dedicate their life to serve their country, and
that's out of patriotism,
yes,
that what we're doing would not only affect me right now, but generations to come.
Yes, they look at the future, they look at the impact of their actions. So some African leaders don't look at the impact of their actions. So they make their own decision. They don't look at what the outcome it will be and all of that. You look at Europe, look at other part of the world, you see that now a president will give himself or herself to serve the country. You look at what the country needs to benefit the country first before his or her own individual interests. So, but in Africa, individual interests and politics override servant leadership. The leadership they are supposed to give to the citizens to make life better for the common citizens of the country. They lack that ability to do that, or they don't want to bring themselves to serve. They just want to, okay, it is my right, or it is my turn. It is, I just want to occupy that position and all of that. They just play party politics, and party politics, yes, and party politics affect the life of citizens, because for example, if an elected governor or president, if you look at the appointment, they always appoint people from their political party or people who help them in campaign, and they don't, sometimes they compromise. If you see somebody who have the intelligence, who have the capacity to occupy one ministry or the other, instead of that, they appointed people who have supported them through campaign. It affects the cabinet of the leadership
and quality of leadership,
yes,
as well.
As you can see, sometimes you see a reshuffling of cabinets that has also happened in Nigeria recently, where there is a reshuffling, and all of that. This is a result of that incompetence, because it supported me, I have to put in that place. After 1 or 2 years, see that the person cannot perform.
In this instance, I actually congratulate the president for taking the step to say, what, I think you perform better in this ministry. I think you are not doing well enough. Just go. Whether Nigerians agree with him or not, I just like that's even in the conversation. But do you think African leaders, who often we've seen them wanting to remain in power, we have African leaders who have been lifetime leaders, basically. Do you think that leadership has made or marred? Because I've also heard conversations like, why are we trying to adopt democracy that does not fit into what we've always known? Do you think this transition is doing us good?
Well, I think for example, African leaders that have stayed in power, we have African leaders that have stayed in power over 30 years. I think if we are talking about democracy should be a transition. So like you don't have to, if you remain in power more than expected period of time, it become authoritative. You see African presidents changing the constitution to favor them for extended period of time. You see, all this kind of behavior, trying to remain in power for as long as they live, is actually affect the growth and development of the country, because you need to give other persons, if it is democracy need to thrive. You don't have to remain. Power don't need to be confined on one family or one lineage. Exactly. You can see one family or one lineage, or they will be producing president, senator, House of Rep members, and all of that. So, if we are talking about democracy, democracy should be rotational, should be transitional, not just being in somebody occupying position for more than 30 years, more than 40 years. That is not democracy. When we talk about when you have democracy, if your constitution says, okay, we want our democracy, our election your leadership period is 4 years, 5 years. When you get to that period, if you need to be re-elected, you contest. If it is not, you step down, you go your way, not changing the constitution to favor you for an extended year, another extended year of 5 years. When that 5 years finishes, you have to still change the constitution to favor you to go in.
We even saw it in Nigeria.
It tried to happen in Nigeria. That tried to happen in Nigeria, but it didn't succeed. But I don't think that kind of situation will be able to succeed in Nigeria.
I mean, we keep talking about youth participation in governance. We keep talking about youth emerging leaders as well, giving opportunities in leadership, and we also are talking about in situations like this where there's so much nepotism. There's also individuals who feel like they deserve to own the country. They are life leaders of African countries. Where would you say youth should fix themselves when it seems like the society, everything is working against them? What's this drive for young people to take charge of everything? And do you think it will work in situations where you see an absolute wrong?
Well, I think young people of Nigeria are very...
I'm not talking Nigeria.
Okay, young people of Africa. Yes, young people of Africa are very vibrant. They are very engaging, and they are very talented. So if you look at how they tend to take up positions but due to the fact that the kind of the generation we have above us, who tend to remain in power for an extended long period of time, the kind of politics we have in Africa does not actually give young people that platform to participate, especially in the party politics, where the candidate will emerge from. Because without a candidate emerging from a political party to represent, to feature in an election, there'll be no participation. I think the whole thing has to do with political party primaries. When we have parties that has a constitution that has a quota for young people to participate. Let me say, for example, if a political party in Nigeria, the most famous one, or the ones that attend that can win elections, if they can dedicate, okay, we are giving young people so percentage to participate in, or they can, especially the election financing, because if you come to party politics, you need to have a lot of money for you to be able
it has come to that, unfortunately.
Yes, you need to have not just in Nigeria, in all African countries, right. Your party politics is very, very strong. And if you, as a young person,
and unfortunately, I need us to really give the proper terms to this. Unfortunately, this monies we're talking about is not just for the usual logistics, usual media materials and tours that is necessary. It is when you attend town hall meetings and you're engaging people to say, this is my manifesto, then listen to all you speak, and they're like, so what did you bring for us? So unfortunately, we're not talking about monies to run a proper campaign, or monies to actually... Yeah,
for Africa as a whole, people believe on what immediate gain. So immediate gain is actually driving some things negatively in the country. So for example, just as you emphasized, if a young person who has a futuristic manifesto with rich content and has the ability to implement them, but if he comes to a town hall meeting or a campaign ground and present his or her manifesto, you will see that because of the previous campaign that has been held, where old politicians brought bags of money and shared, and young person who is coming to tell them that, okay, vote for me, they will come and tell you, now vote for me, I go chop.
Exactly.
So and also they have this mentality that, okay, if this person go into that place, he will forget them. So let them get what they need, what they can get at this time. And that is also that mentality they have. Even it happens during an election, like vote buying. You see that some politicians, they come with bags of money, they give people money. The person, okay, let me collect. If you win now, I'm not going to get an appointment.
And they already know that they can't even reach these politicians any longer when they meet.
Yes, there's let me collect the one I have seen first, and all of that. So all of these things negatively impact the outcome of election, which also in fact affect democratic governance in Nigeria, not just in Nigeria, but Africa. You see, all of these issues are very, very intriguing issues that affect democratic governance and how politicians or how leaders perform in their various capacities.
Not to mention how they are also perceived, not just how they perform. But let's take the conversation to this very important summit that's coming up, the 4th Extraordinary Summit in Abuja, Nigeria. I'll just like you to give us a context to what this Extraordinary Summit is for those watching and hoping they'll be part of this. And then we'll now get to the theme of this year's event. Okay, thank you.
It's something I am passionate about because it's something that builds capacity, inspire young people to take action immensely, because it's not the usual conventional summit. This is a very unconventional event. Let me start. In 2021, we started the Youth Model African Union. We look at African Union as a continental body which also are closer to the people, even the United Nations. We see that most people are focused on United Nations, but they don't understand what African Union is about.
And what it has to offer.
And how it affects them as individuals, and how they can contribute in driving its agenda. African Union has a lot of protocol, policies, programs,
an
agenda
that running simultaneously with the UN agenda, Agenda 2063.
If African youth, if African citizens can focus in holding their member state to implement some of the policies, program, protocols of the African Union, you see development thrive in Africa. So African Union as a body in 2013, develop a roadmap. It even came before United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, because UN Sustainable Development came in 2015, but the African Union agenda came in 2013. That is, they have a 50 years blueprint for African development. So from 2013 to 2050, a 50-year blueprint with actions, with actionable solutions to those
peculiar issues that we face in Africa.
It has 7 aspirations, and these aspirations has its action plans for implementation. For if you have heard of African Continental Free Trade Area,
AfTA, of course.
Yes, it's a very dynamic program, very important program that can facilitate trade, movement of people. Also, there is free movement of people as part of the program implementation to achieve the African Union Agenda 2063. But African youth, African citizens don't know about this, that all of this exists. So we identify this gap. We look at how we can, bring young people together, understand the system, understand how African Union work, and how they can contribute in driving its implementation and actualization. So we came up with, although before now, in 2011, African Union, the former African Union Youth Envoy, we also look at how African youth can begin to understand how African Union works, because United Nations has what we call Model United Nations, where people go to simulate United Nations simulation. They understand the systems and workings of what United Nations,
right.
But African youth don't understand the systems and workings of African Union. So we came up with Model African Union. We call Youth Model African Union, where we bring young people together to learn about African Union,
right.
Understand how it works, understand how it affects them as young people, understand how it affects their country, and affect them as citizens of their various countries. So what we do at the Youth Model African Union is a simulation process where young people get to engage participate, provide solution to Africa's most pressing challenges.
Giving a semblance of the African Parliament
Yes,
setting,
yes. This is it. Each delegate is assigned a country to represent. It's a simulation process. We can call it role-playing of the African Union. So we are doing what African Union does. Just like as President Bola Ahmed Tinubu will go to African Union to represent Nigeria. African Union hosts its summit usually in February. So February, African Union member state gather at the African Union headquarters. There they go there to make commitment to ensure that issues that they have a particular theme they address each year. This year, team focused on the education. So this year, AU summit was in February, so all the head of state and government went to African Union to make commitment in improving education. So now African youth have seen that, okay, our member state have made commitment. How do we follow up to ensure the implementation of this commitment? So at the Youth Model African Union, we teach them how member states make commitment.
Right, giving them the semblance of
yes,
how it goes during this African
Union summit. Yes,
right.
Yes, they perform the role of president and head of state at the African Union, practically exactly how it is done. That is what they will be doing. It helps them understand policies. Like, for example, if you assign Togo, it helps you understand the policies, foreign policies of Togo, because you are going to do a research. We have what we call position
papers. Right.
You want to prepare a position paper. You are going to prepare a speech focusing on the theme of the summit.
Right.
You know, focusing on the theme of which you are going to, as the president of Togo, you are going to, make commitment to what your country is doing to solve Africa's most pressing challenges. And in the position paper, you are going to state your country's policies and programs to address issues that is affecting Africa. So in this summit, we have what we call the assembly. That is the AU assembly. That is the gathering of head of state and government to make commitments to address Africa's most present challenges. And we have the committee section, because we'll be simulating African Union organ, the Peace and Security Council.
Exactly.
So Africa have been affected with issues of terrorism, banditry, kidnapping, piracy. All of issues of insecurity have bedeviled Africa. So we're looking at how Africa can achieve a peaceful and secure Africa. And also we're looking at young people participation in peace and security, looking at the African continental framework on youth peace and security. So African Union has a framework that help young people to promote peace. But young people don't understand this continental framework.
Right.
So this summit will help young people to understand how the framework of youth peace and security by African Union, and how they can contribute and they promote it and become part of the implementation. So it's a whole lot of
it's going to be robust.
It's a lot of packing. It's not a summit where you come and sit down and fold your hand. No, this is participatory. It requires period of preparation for research, preparation of position paper, preparation of speech, participation in the area assembly, participation in the Peace and Security Council. Here you make your speeches, participation,
right.
And after everything, we have a communique, we have a draft resolution. Thankfully, the African Union Youth Ambassador for Peace for the 6 regions will be participating.
Right, I saw her. Congratulations on getting her on board.
Yeah, it's not only her. We have for the West Africa, for the Southern Africa, for Eastern Africa, for the North Africa, and for the Central Africa. So all of them will be participating, and this is what their responsibility is to advocate. So the resolutions that we are going to pass, that we are going to develop, the solutions, the communicate, all the things we are going to develop during the summit, are going to give to them to go and present at the African Union. So
well,
your input,
I like what you said.
Your input at the summit, you'll be participating thankfully.
Thankfully, I will be representing.
Will be featured in the African Union, because those our African Union youth ambassadors, they will be participating next year at the African Union
to live with these resolutions. Igweshi will go for a short break, because a lot of people are wondering. I mean, sometimes our leaders go for this African Union summit, come back without clear-cut plans and strategies. Like this year, you said, is education. We still have over 20 million children out of school. I read a UBEC article talking about how we are not even, taking advantage of the matching grants ready for governors. So it tells you that governments don't even seem ready, especially Nigeria. We don't seem ready to have key performance indicators of where we want to go in education-wise. So what would make the resolutions from the youth model event different? We'll go for a short break. When we return, these are the conversations we'll be having. We'll be right back. Welcome back from that. Ambassador Augustine Igweshi is right here in the studio, and we've been discussing how African youth rather can contribute to peace and prosperity, especially now that we are talking about something as important as the African Youth AU, rather, African Union Youth Model Summit that is coming up really soon. And he has been talking about the many resolutions that will get from there to get to the African Union Summit, the yearly event that happens. My question before we went on this break is, our leaders go on this very important event. We have the African Union event, we have the United Nations event. They go there with seemingly important or drives for commitment. When they return, you don't see strategies, or you don't see anything that gives you the idea that they are serious about implementing what they are committed to, their protocols and pacts and the treaties that are signed. But we return and nothing. So what will make this Youth Model African Union Summit different? I mean, you've talked about the resolutions that the peace ambassadors will take back, but is that enough?
I think what will make a difference is that, just like I explained, it's not the normal. We're going to have draft resolutions. We're going to have a communique, and thankfully, like I said before, the African Union Youth Ambassadors for Peace, we take that as an advocacy document to the African Union. So, and also we have the participation of African Union, the Director, Women, Gender and Youth Directorate of the African Union Commission also will be speaking at the event. So last year we also submitted the draft resolution we have. So it's an advocacy too. Advocacy takes a lot of effort and commitment. So we continue after we pass after we develop the resolution after the summit. Is going to be submitted to our youth ambassadors for peace at the African Union, which will be tabled to the African Union head of state and government at the African Union summit coming up next year. So during the summit, they will present it and say, this is what young people of Africa, this is what they have brought to the table. They will read it to the all the head of state and government present at the African Union. They will read it before them. This is what African youth are saying. This is their demand. This is their the solution they have come up with in achieving a peaceful and prosperous Africa based on inclusive growth and what sustainable development. Right. And what consists of African Union are those head of state and government. So every country will be present there. So the country president or head of state will take the message or the delegations of that country at the African Union. We take the message. So now our delegate that participated in the summit will go back to their country and engage with them.
With this draft resolution,
yes. Right. This is the resolution we came up with at the summit, and it was presented to you at the African Union headquarters during the summit. We want action. We want implementation. So it will now be the it will now be on the shoulder of our delegate to advocate, to ensure that they follow up, that, okay, they have seen our resolution, they have had what we came up with. It is now time for what? Implementation. You know, government sometimes feel like this kind of implementing
exactly
policies and programs,
right?
Yes.
regional especially,
yes,
and international.
Yes.
Why is that? I want to know.
No, because
they come with commitment. You see them travel all the way outside Nigeria with
they have not finished implementing domestically developed programs and policies.
But sometimes these international are not necessarily, they are relatable with your
yes,
local policies.
They are relatable.
They even give better direction to how you can achieve it. But it now seems like, oh,
countries are good in signing a lot of treaties, convention, protocol, and all of that.
Yeah.
The main issue is implementation, and before you can even implement, you have to have like an action plan, a national action plan, a country action plan. Some of these protocols are very, you have to tailor it to your country context.
Okay. Have there been times when the protocols are not relatable to challenges the country face?
It's a regional or a continent, a world developed content. So, but they are relatable to issues affecting countries around the world. But there will be a particular area that your country is focused on. Do you understand?
Right.
For example, the SDG, we could say, okay, Nigeria, there's a high rate of unemployment. Okay, there's high rate of out of school children. Now, Nigeria could say, okay, we want to focus more on addressing this particular issue.
Right.
Do you understand? Because if we say we want to address all, you end not achieving nothing.
Okay.
So, when all these protocol treaties are developed, countries look at the ones that are peculiar to them, according to the context peculiar to them, and focus on implementing them. For example, the UN resolution 2250 on youth peace and security. So Nigeria was the first country in Africa to have a national action plan, and kudos to Nigeria for that. And we young people have been taking it was our effort.
Right.
Just if other
African countries,
yes, African country or other resolutions by UN, if action can be taken the way it was taken to develop a national action plan.
But what's the impact though, about beyond the actions and beyond the advocacy? Because that's one thing we're good at. When you say, oh, this thing is new, it has come, we take charge. You see consultations and engagements and summits and workshops. What's the impact?
Policies, before you can impact, takes a longer time to
what's the KPIs?
So now, okay, first of all, from the when the resolution was passed, Nigeria began to work on national action plan. Okay. Now, the first thing was to create awareness.
Okay.
People got to know that, okay, this document exists.
Right?
Yes, this document exists. And they understand the content of the document. Now, that is knowledge. They have gained knowledge of the document. So now how can they now is translating those knowledge to impact, you understand, to address the critical issue. Now I begin with training. Understand? Training. Okay, you need to understand how you can go about, spreading the message across different communities, different agencies, for them to understand how it works. So I could say the impact has been knowledge. It's not something that will just come all of a sudden. So as implementation, it has a 5 years. The first national action plan has a 5 years implementation plan.
Right.
So the 5 years is basically awareness, knowledge, and engagement. So after that has passed, now those people have got to know about it.
While awareness, knowledge is going on, especially in Nigeria, rifts are getting worse. I mean, we know. Okay, so let's take this caller who is trying to reach us right here. Hello there. Good evening. Hello, can you hear us? Okay. We lost, I think it's network, but I would love to hear what you've got to say. We're discussing how young people can contribute to Africa's prosperity and peace, including the inclusion, growth, and sustainability. So, yeah, you were talking about...
yes.
So, what happens while we are doing knowledge, awareness, and getting people informed about this document? 5 years is a very long time. I'm talking because I come from a small community that, as a matter of fact, my mother's village and my father's village are in serious conflict right now. Serious conflict. That's how bad it is. And I'm thinking from local impact, right?
Yeah.
And you're telling me, yes, you are in conflict, but yes, there's a document that gives direction to leadership as to how we can achieve peace. I know, but we are still fighting. My cousins are fighting.
Nigeria is quite a huge country.
Of course.
So implementation of, the document was, the National Action Plan is for the federal government, and there's state action plan. You understand?
I know.
Yes. No. Now, if how these things they are in step or in category.
We have yet another caller.
Okay.
I hope you get your thoughts after that. Hello. Good evening. Hello. Can you hear us? Again, I think the network is bad, but keep trying. Hopefully, we'll be able to have that conversation around. I'm not sure exactly what their questions will be.
So I was talking about localizing those documents is very, very important at state level, especially at state level. So there's state action plan, but it's only few states has also domesticated this plan. Exactly. I don't think your state have done that.
How would you know?
Because I know the state that have done that.
And where do you think I come from?
I know where you come from. Do you want me to say it?
No, I'd rather you do not.
Okay.
but why are we not having that intentionality across?
So it's also political will. Sometimes when you take this document to state, there's no political will to act on it. Do you understand?
So we have not prioritized peace.
Yeah, maybe.
And you just said my state hasn't. But let's move on from there to talk about the people who would be coming for this conference. Who are we expecting for the summit, rather? Okay,
we're expecting young people across Africa. They will be participating from different African countries. Like I said, exactly a week today. By this time, we will have all of them. I will have most of them, especially those that are coming.
Exactly 1 week today. That's true.
Yes,
that's true.
Exactly 1 week today. Many of them would have arrived Abuja, and we will be having them on a reception and welcoming them to the beautiful city of Abuja. Yes, especially those that will be coming to Abuja for the first time. We'll be welcoming them to the African most populous black nation. Most interestingly, we have more than 600 people registered for the summit. Interestingly, they needed. Some are very, especially those that are from outside Nigeria, they are very eager to come to Nigeria. They are excited. Those who have secured their visa to come, they are very excited to come to Nigeria.
What's there not to love?
So they are very excited. So, like I said, we'll be expecting young people across Africa to participate in the summit. It's a summit that will, open their eyes to understand the systems and workings of African Union, how it affect them as individual, how it affects their country, the policies and programs of their country, and their country contribution to African development. And also it has also helped them to understand research, because for the past 6 months, especially those who started the early bird,
right,
have been doing thorough research, understanding their country foreign policies, right. So some of them don't know their country policy
until this period. I for one, who is representing Cabo Verde,
yes,
I didn't know.
You see?
I didn't know a lot about Cabo Verde, and this research has really opened my eyes. So I can understand what you mean by a lot of people who would now get to understand their country foreign policies, and writing a position paper is not for children. It's only when you start it that you're like, damn, this is indeed you need to understand the government's policies and know where the biggest issues are and how you hope to address it. So yes, I love the whole concept of youth model African Union.
Yeah. So yeah, you represent a country, you assign a country, you do research, understand everything about your country. When you come there, when you come to the summit, you come to the podium at the AU Assembly simulation. Always you understand the rule of procedure, how it is done at the African Union. It's all about diplomacy. You need to understand diplomacy. You need to understand negotiation. Always you need to know how to build allies. So it's very, very engaging. Negotiation, debate, diplomacy, ally building. You know, when they talk about this country is my ally.
Exactly.
You know now, US have a lot of allies. Russia have their own allies. You know the Russia-Ukraine war. You know the allies supporting Ukraine.
And that's
so
Russia, right?
This all is going to play at the simulation. So now, for example, I represent Cape Verde. I don't know the policies and programs of...
By the way, it's Cabo Verde now.
Okay, Cabo Verde. Is that how it's pronounced?
That's how it has been changed since 20. You want me to tell you the
you see what the summits have done is has helped you to understand this. So it exposes you a lot.
Exactly.
So a whole ally building, lobbying, because you need to lobby. Is this in the African Union Peace and Security Council? You are trying to make sure that your country military is stronger.
So
understand?
You get allies that help with that.
Yes, support your country contribution. You can vote for maybe if your country is not a member of the Peace and Security Council. You can vote. But if you have a veto power at the council, you can veto resolution passed by Ghana. If you don't like Ghana present its resolution, you can veto the resolution and say it's not going to pass. And if you have a lot of allies, I don't know if you have built allies.
You will get the support. I don't want the cat out of the bag. So you will get the support when you
get a support, and your resolution and what you brought will be passed. So it's a whole lot of consensus building. And during the summer you have caucus, you build your caucus and all of that. So it's a whole lot that will take place, and I'm excited. The knowledge, the impact, the connection, and also the connection, connecting with young people across different countries, different community, building something together, coming up with something is very, very interesting. Interacting, having perspective from another person.
Exactly. Just getting to hear the other person's position as to especially peace and security. It's very important.
Yes, you get to understand different countries' positions, different position. What is in their mind, because the person is representing the country, it is speaking the country's mind, not his own mind. Everything is going to be talking, or she's going to be talking, representing the country, not because you're not going to be talking as you. You're going to be talking
it
as
would have been nice to talk about Joy Asani. I would not have to.
You don't have to do that. You say the people of Ghana,
people of
people of
Cabo Verde.
Cabo Verde. Sorry about that. Yeah, the people of Cabo Verde. You are representing them, so you have to speak on their behalf. You have to present their commitment to addressing issues that affect Africa, and also you have to get other people commitment to support your country policies and program to improve life and the betterment of the citizens of your country.
I like what you said, that young people would learn to lobby, learn to align with people and get allies and all of that. And you also mentioned that delegates would be expected to go back and get this information, the draft resolution also in the countries that they serve, to say this is the position of young people. But do you think we are taken seriously? I mean, young people are taken seriously enough to be listened to, having engaged with government over the years, African government?
I think young people are beginning there is this intergenerational dialogue that that have been happening. I think if you check 5-10 years back, I think there is a progress in bringing young people or giving listening ear to young people. Young people's voices are beginning to be heard little by little. So I think it's a progress. It's in progress. So as we progress, if you look at countries across Africa, there are a lot of progress in listening. If you look at what happened in Kenya, the Gen Z now,
the Gen Z protested.
Yes, you see that young people's voice was heard.
Like some conversation on social media. The next thing they were bringing down the entire country. And
do you know that because of that, the president dissolved his cabinet?
Exactly. I saw politicians apologizing, crying. Yeah. Like, really?
You see?
Gen Zs do have the power.
They have the power. So it's just unity. If young people can unite, sometimes they will be divided by politicians, by interests. So if young people unite, just as Kenya Youth United, and drive policy change, and drive government to do the unexpected, those things people think it will not be possible. What's done in Kenya? President has to dissolve his cabinet.
Completely, yeah.
Throw away the tax bill.
The bill that was perceived as not people-centric.
Anti-people's bill. So a whole lot of a change happened within short period of time because of young people unity. Although there was a brutality, there was use of force, there was
that has become an international
young people also sacrificed their life. So many young people died at the process. But for you to achieve change, sacrifice must happen.
Sadly, that's something we have come to achieve. But you have talked about over 600 participants registering for this event. For those who are listening to us right now and saying, you know what, this is something I want to be part of, do they still have room?
Oh, unfortunately, we are done for this year. They can reach out for next year. We are anticipating next year edition to hold in Ethiopia, the AU headquarters. So that we'll have it at that building. It will be
proper simulation.
Yes.
Proper simulation. You probably will sit in your country.
Yes, where your country position is
designated.
Yes, in the African Union.
Right.
Yes.
That's interesting.
Because this next year will be the 5th edition. So we're taking the 5th edition to the African Union headquarters.
Right. So are there Zoom opportunities or virtual rather?
Yes, there are virtual opportunities.
Right.
Yeah, even this year, in Africa, issue of finance is very, very, and movement of people from one African country to another is very, very difficult.
Oh,
very,
really?
very difficult.
In spite of after?
After is in progress, but a lot need to be done in terms of free movement of people.
Is very embarrassing. I don't know. There was a politician that once talked about. Was it a politician or Dangote who said he needs several visas just to move around.
Yes,
around Africa. That's unfortunate.
You can imagine if you want to go to any country in Africa that's not ECOWAS, you need a visa. You just want thank Rwanda that had just made visa on arrival.
On arrival, yeah.
So if you can see now, people go to Rwanda to host the event because you don't need to apply for visa.
And that is another hospitality move.
Yes.
That's another.
It's also bringing economic development.
Exactly.
Tourism and all of that. So I am advocating that from experience, what I have seen in organizing youth model for 4 years
now.
Movement of people within Africa is even more difficult than going to Europe. The money you pay for flight within African country. That's the most
unfortunate thing.
It's very unfortunate. The money you pay for flight within Africa is more expensive than the money you pay and go to Europe.
So I'm sure that is why we're not seeing a vibrant tourism.
That is it. There is no, that interconnectivity between Africa. So
here we are talking about a uniform currency.
Yes.
If we have a uniform currency for when we still have these issues, do you think it will fly?
First of all, there has to be free movement of people
before we can enjoy.
Yes,
exactly.
At least 90% of African countries should have visa on arrival, or even all the African countries should have visa on arrival to make movement easier, and there should be interconnectivity of flight. Because flight issue is quite challenging, and they are quite expensive.
Because they are not destinations for Africans as well. But Ambassador Augustine Igweshi, thank you so much for being part of the program and discussing this very important issue. Thank you. Thank you, Joy, for having me. Next week. Yes, see you. See you next week. Sure. Okay, so thank you for being part of today's edition of the program. We've been discussing with Ambassador Augustine Igweshi, Executive Director, Center for Peace, Advocacy and Sustainable Development. We'll be talking about uniting African youth towards peace and prosperity, especially inclusive social development. But this is where we drop the curtains on today's edition. Rest assured, we'll be back tomorrow with so much more. Do have a restful evening.